To bring the Monday, October 2nd, 2023 Township of Hamilton Committee meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building, by faxing notice of this meeting to the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January the 6th, 2023, and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City and Star Ledger on January the 9th, 2023. Mr. Cheek?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Schenker?
Here.
Dr. Witherspoon? Here. Mayor Patali?
Here. Moment of silence for private reflection. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that thoughts and prayers for the family of Mayor Tom Palmenteri. He just passed, and his funeral will be on Wednesday at Folks's. So please keep him in your prayers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Proclamation. Knockout Opioid Abuse Day, October 6, 2023. Whereas New Jersey is in the midst of a life-threatening opioid abuse epidemic, and whereas the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Jersey has designated October 6, 2023 as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day, an initiative with three purposes: to raise awareness of the potential for dependency on prescribed pain medicine and its link to heroin and fentanyl use rates in our state, to reduce the stigma of addiction and shine a light on the need for recovery support, and to communicate to physicians information on safer prescribing messages found on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines for prescribing opioids, which include considering other therapies, setting realistic treatment goals with patients, and discussing with patients the positives and negatives of opioids. And whereas the State Senate and General Assembly jointly resolved that October 6th shall be permanently designated as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day in New Jersey in order to raise awareness about the dangers of and the link between prescription opioid abuse and heroin addiction, and to educate healthcare providers, community leaders, state lawmakers, and members of the public about the opioid abuse epidemic and its effects throughout the state of New Jersey and across the country. And whereas the Township of Hamilton and its Municipal Alliance Committee support initiatives designed to raise awareness about opioid abuse in New Jersey and take steps to prevent addiction. Therefore, be it proclaimed that October 6, 2023 be recognized as Knockout Opioid Abuse Day in the Township of Hamilton, Atlantic County, New Jersey. Guest presentations, we have none. Addition, deletion. Deletions, 7H resolution authorizing the mayor to sign letter of consent for legal representation to challenge amendments of the Casino Property Tax Stabilization Act. And 12, executive session. I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for public hearings.
We have Aileen Dix for 3A and 3B. Good evening. I would like to read you some township official records. The first one will be 3 sentences on the November 9, 2009 Township Committee minutes. My use of the word "you" tonight is referring to you, the Township Committee, not you, the 5 people who are sitting there at this point, because many people have sat in those seats over the last 25 years. This landfill report is by Sesdeli, with a PowerPoint on that night, November 9th, and among the extensive, almost transcript from Mrs. Anderson, there's a couple key sentences. He, being Sesdeli, explained the township filed a closure plan to cap the landfill with DEP over 10 years ago, and it has yet to get approval. 2009, over 10 years, means sometime in the 90s. The next sentence that I'm jumping to is, he said the current cost estimate to close it in the traditional way is about $5 million, and the township does not have that budgeted or bonded anywhere. Dropping down to the third sentence, he explained, Governor Corzine signed a new bill into law. He explained the act established the title Licensed Site Remediation Professional, LSRP, and requires every town that's going to close a landfill now to have one. And the punchline is, Sesdeli said the LSRP was never required before, and there are none in the state at this time, 2009. Fortunately, you have our map up there, because I brought mine, and the date down in that bottom corner is July 12 of 2013. Judy, I hope you recognize it, because when we had the meeting in Conference Room A with you and I and Solicitor Sandman and Industrial Commission Pritchard, Craig, and Carson, and Jeff and Trevin, and I don't remember if there was anybody else. I didn't go back to my notes to determine before I came here tonight. We spent 2 hours. When Sandman stood up at the end of the time, he said, I've learned more about the landfill in this couple of hours than I ever had heard before. The reason I'm glad you brought that for my benefit and everybody else's is what is now in yellow was discussed 10 years and 2 months ago, that as you can see from the jagged red line, that's the area of contamination, and the contamination is over onto those other 3 lots. Even though we knew 10 years ago, 2 of the lots are owned by the commission, 1 is privately owned, and my information is that the private owner has not cooperated with the township in trying to either swap it out for another lot, sell it back, whatever. There's been no resolution. The criticism I have is that in 10 years, this township never started eminent domain on the contaminated lot. And I'm not sure if it's the middle one. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's one of the 3, and it's not the pointy one. That's the one closest to the special services school, and that's where the current driveway is to get into the landfill, because there is no other driveway. This work, as you can tell, has been going on for a long time, but the township has not kept up their part where the contracted parties have. So I'm not sure if this is going to become a holdup or not as far as the final closure. Made all my points on that. My final point, well, it's next to the last, is this is a bill from Mally Givens. The month, it's dated September 8 of 2022. It's the whole month of August, and I highlighted various communication with Kostecki and Cream reference potential termination of the redevelopment agreement, review of the 2011 agreement, update memos, research company. That goes on for the whole month, and the bill we taxpayers paid $881.50. My first question is, did you receive a written report from the redevelopment attorneys for this work that we taxpayers paid for? And if the answer is no, then ask for it tonight, that it be provided in writing this week, because it's 14 months old. If you're going to pay for legal fees, I think you should get a report that you should all have the same, and I know that 3 of you were there, 2 of you weren't, last year. To suggest that you could break a redevelopment agreement of this many years, of this long tenure, when you had 10 years that you got nothing accomplished because the DEP wasn't approving your plan from the 90s up to 2009, and these people have been working ever since. Grant after grant, you've signed off on the grants. The other money that had to come in came in from other sources, not my pocket, not his pocket, and any other taxpayer behind me. We didn't pay. We've only paid legal fees, and I don't know if anybody has given you that figure. Don't know if there is one. But this industrial park and this landfill are inextricably linked. We need to get to the end. We need to give this company as much time as they say, not just a few months. I want to see a year, 2 years, to let's get through. The other comment I wanted to make, and it was on my little note, I watch the Pinelands summary every week. It gets posted Monday, which means I can see it tomorrow. Last week's, the summary showed 2 items for our landfill. September 21st a meeting was requested. September 22nd, an email was sent. Obviously, I don't know any more than what was on the summary, but it shows activity. And we need to stay the course. We don't need to invite a lawsuit on top of all the other problems we happen to be dealing with. I made my point. That point is clear. Let's proceed forward and not with little baby steps of a couple of months. I want to see longer term. That's on the landfill. Now, since you have that nice map up there, to the left of the landfill, there's 2 lots that are just under the 994. They are on Cedarwood. They are the lots that Fresh Cuts is working on their Pinelands approval. I did not see anything last week on the Pinelands for the process that's going on there. But on June 14th in this room, Andy Schaefer, on behalf of the client, came in to talk at the MUA meeting regarding water and sewer and that type of thing. It was just a question and answer type thing, not a formal presentation. But they're proposing a 47,000 square foot building on the 2 lots with 95 parking places, because the panel was here and I was there and I could get a good look at it. So I think whatever extension they're asking for, go along with it. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They're trying to get an approval. And if anybody doesn't understand, we can't rush the DEP or the Pinelands. I don't know what to say to you, but please be reasonable with these people. They are working. They're putting their money where their mouth is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Brett?
Yeah, we have Steve Gardocki for items 7D, E, and F.
Hello again. Steve Gardocki, 62 Keller Way. Just a question on items D, E, and F regarding the release of bonds for Fernmore homes in our community. Question is, has our township engineer inspected all the items on the punch list to warrant the release of these bonds? Are all the items completed to his satisfaction, and will that warrant the release of the bonds?
You want to speak to that, Bob? Sure. You just got to hop over to that mic.
Good evening. The simple answer to the question is yes, with the exception of a couple of items that the association agreed to take on. But with the exception of those items, all the items have been completed that were on our original punch list. So we made a recommendation to Township Committee to release the bonds for phases 2, 3A, and 3B.
Very good. That answers that question. Follow-up question. Phases 1, 4, and 5 remain undone. Our roads are part of those phases. We're optimistic from what we hear that there is ongoing work. He's done some cement work had some heavy equipment in, but that seems to be all completed now with these other phases. Can you give us an update as to when that paving will begin? We're told end of October, no later than November, for completion of the roads in our pond.
It may actually be as early as next week. I'm waiting for a confirmation from the developer. The majority of the concrete work is done. There's still a few minor items that have to be addressed. But once that's completed, they've already done the base repairs, then they'll do final paving in Phase 1 at this time.
Okay. And Phase 1 includes Merlino?
Phase 1 includes the balance of Keller from Lowful to Old Egg Harbor Road and Merlino. Correct.
Okay.
That's Phase 1.
Okay. And I'm told our pond has received its liner, and we're due for the installation of a new liner on the Ernst Pond.
On
Phase
the
4.
pond on Phase 4, that's correct.
Okay. So we do see progress. We
There's been,
appreciate
there's,
I know
yes,
you've been busy.
there's
over
been a
there.
significant amount of progress on both sides.
Okay.
The developer is moving to try to get the project completed and get off his bonds.
Okay. That's all I need to hear. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
That's it. Awesome.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Mayor, Committee.
Thank you. Moving on, 3A, landfill remediation and redevelopment, project status report, and a request for 6-month extension of the redevelopment agreement.
Do you want to sit down so you can scroll through the...
Oh, sure. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Go Phillies. All right. Give a quick update. I had presented to committee a status report, committee and staff a status report in September, and had requested a 2-year extension of the redevelopment agreement, which should give us time to close it and put the solar in. Brett had contacted me and asked me to have a meeting. So we had a meeting with the mayor and Committeeman Cheek. Due to some concerns at that meeting, it was asked if we could reduce the extension to 6 months. Although it's not ideal for our financing, as I explained in the last meeting, somebody doesn't want to put financing up if the agreement's going to run out and, you're not going to be able to complete the project. However, this 6 months ought to get us through Pinelands approvals, et cetera. And at that point, and I think, Brett, you and I talked about it, would be around the beginning of April, would be a 6-month extension. At that point, we should have Pinelands approval. We'll be able to come in with a detailed schedule for construction activities, et cetera, and get a more appropriate extension at that time to both close the landfill and install the solar renewable energy system. And update, and then we'll revisit this. Brett also asked me to revisit this issue with the adjacent lots that Ms. Dix mentioned, so we'll do that. I was going to mention this anyway, but follow up on Ms. Dix's comment about the meeting request. We have a meeting on Thursday with Pinelands Commission, a virtual meeting, obviously, that's how most meetings are these days, to discuss the scope of work to do the additional testing that they requested in their letter for the stormwater evaluation. That'll involve our engineer and a contractor with a machine digging additional test pits in various locations. And
That's Wednesday?
that meeting is Thursday.
Thursday.
So that's to confirm that the scope of work that we think, or the engineers think, we comply with the Pinelands request actually complies before we go to the field and actually do the work. So that's what the purpose of that meeting is about. We intend to get out there as soon as possible with that work. It's tentatively scheduled for the week of the 13th, 14th of October. Depending on how this meeting goes, we'll hopefully be able to stay on that schedule. I also got some more good news last week that was pretty unexpected from the Pinelands Commission. As you may recall, I mentioned in the other meeting that they are going to, and they mentioned in their letter, they're hiring a consultant to do the review versus the permeable versus non-permeable cap. And I found out who that consultant was. The consultant is Edwin Growski, who used to work at the Pinelands Commission for 20-plus years and is very familiar with us. He's familiar with the project. He's familiar with the issue in the Pinelands. Ed and I worked together for at least 15 years plus on this issue of these landfills in the Pinelands and how to properly close them and keep it safe for public health and the environment in the instance where you don't need to have an impermeable cap. So I was very encouraged by that. I have a phone call with Ed on Wednesday. He's going to call me. He's chasing grandkids and still in California and doing stuff like that, but he's hired. I want to make sure he has all the documents he needs to do a proper review, walk through where I think some of the key information is that he needs to look at, and try to get from him a schedule on his review and report back to the Pinelands Commission. So I thought that was extremely positive. Just scroll like this. Okay, good. So these, going back to the map here and this issue of these lots, which as mentioned has been around for a while, but is a fairly simple resolution. We had numerous meetings with the commission and more recently numerous additional meetings with the commission and with the committee about this in 2021 once sort of the COVID stuff started to settle down, and discussed this issue. And Mr. Sandman had suggested and talked that there was some fairly easy resolution to this. So this line is actually just as a sketch. This one's not as accurate. It's actually marked out on the next figure, which I'll show you. But this is where the waste is. So the waste actually encroaches on these three lots. And this is the bottom lot here. 14 is the lot that's owned by Avalon Limousine, or the family that owns Avalon Limousine. This is a same lot superimposed, and this is this was the conceptual landfill plan back at the time. It's very similar still. There's just maybe some slight mods, but not really effective. One is the road right here, which you'll see on the next figure. Actually, where it's depicted here, it runs through a basin. But so the waste, the trash, actually kind of ends right around here. But with the grading and access way and stormwater infiltration around here, you'll see it extends out far on the lots here. So we had, again, reviewed with the commission, and at that time, Steve of EDA was the engineer. He had actually prepared this plan that shows a possible new lot line and a subdivision, which was a possibility, and this was the proposed access way through here. We can accomplish this in a number of ways. The Solicitor Sandman was talking about an easements, which allow through the two township properties. We had some initial discussions a while ago about possible acquisition of the lots, but a simple access agreement would be sufficient at this point. I reached out to the Avalon Limousine folks, and haven't heard back from them yet. I just reached out this morning to them. I had spoken to one of the principals there many years ago, 3 years ago, and they were moving forward, and Solicitor Sandman actually drafted an agreement to swap their lot out for another lot at one point, and they did not move forward with that. So that would have made all these lots township, in the industrial park, and would have made the easement and or access agreement issue pretty straightforward. So we need to move forward with this. I will plan to work with Brett and whomever else I'm instructed to deal with this. I think that right now the easiest thing is a simple access agreement with the township, with the industrial commission. You'll have to tell me on how that's structured. But we get access agreements to install wells and do remediation on off-site properties all the time. I have simple form documents we can provide. So hopefully we'll be able to push that forward. I would pursue the same thing with Avalon Limousine at this point, a access agreement. This is important because the Pinelands Commission, in their review of our submittal, recognized this, and it's in their letter too, that they need permission from all the property owners where this work is going to take place. So. That's something we need to address, and that's how we're proposing it. The last figure is just some photographs from Algonquin looking onto the Lot 12 there. As you can see, Lot 12 has two stormwater basins already on it, one for the road and one for, I think this one actually drains part of the school, but so that, I don't know that there's much value in that lot there, given that it's already got the two basins on there, but, so. That's what I had for this evening.
Okay. Any questions for?
I just have one question. The 6 months would be 180 days. And you stated earlier that that's really not enough time. People don't want to give you funding. That's not true. I mean, so what do you actually need?
We had requested 2 years, which we think would be enough time to get all the way through the project. And the agreement has May on the front of it, but it wasn't signed and executed until June, and it's kind of silent on when the effective date is. So there's a question about when the actual date is. So, but we're assuming it's from now, if you will, October.
When did you make application to the Pinelands and all this time?
We made our formal application in July, this July, once we got that.
But you've been working or with them, or?
We have been. We had filed with the DEP with the closure plan first in the beginning of 2022. Okay. And the Pinelands Commission asked the DEP to hold off until they completed their review. Then we completed the remedial action work plan, submitted the Pinelands application. Wait a minute. Actually, that was in May. I think the July was when we got their letter. Yeah, we submitted in May and got their letter in July. I think I'm sorry, I was confused on that.
So, was the holdup more or less with DEP?
No, the DEP has indicated to us that they're ready to approve the closure plan. And then the LSRP has a remedial action work plan all ready to submit. But we're really just waiting on the Pinelands Commission.
Okay, but have you been negotiating or working through the DEP requirements all this time?
Yes, oh yeah.
Because it seems like it's been a long time.
It has been a long time, right? We got the funding, the grant for the remedial action, to develop the remedial action work plan and landfill closure plan was approved by the EDA, the Township, in 2020. Mm-hmm. And then in July of 2020 is when we submitted the concept plan to the committee, and everybody had COVID, including me. I got COVID in September that year. And then, so we followed through and completed the plan, and in 2021 we had several meetings with committee members and with the committee, and got those documents finalized. And I think we waited until Mayor was the mayor to sign those documents for the application in the beginning of 2022.
Good. Very
Okay.
good.
Yep.
Is there any any comments from Brett about
I just thought that the 6 months would get him through the Pinelands process and bring him back here for an update, and then the committee can at that time choose to extend for a year or longer based on the timeline and what's needed then.
So you believe that the Pinelands will get back within the 6-month period?
Yes.
They indicated in their July letter 6 months. I hope to get something more concrete from Ed on Wednesday when I speak to him. And we're going to invest additional dollars here and go out with this additional investigation and finalize this other stormwater engineering work now, so that we can get that information in and it can be reviewed while the impermeable permeable cap issue is being reviewed as well. So,
has there been any other situations in the Pinelands which have discussed or sort of gotten permission with the permeable versus non-permeable cap?
Yes, Berkeley landfill is one of the major ones that recently got an approval. They had some issues because, and I'm not sure who was involved in this, but they thought the landfill was 53 acres, and when they got out there and started doing their testing, it turned out to be almost 100 acres. So their process of review and back and forth and submittal with both the DEP and Pinelands Commission took some time, and I know it cost millions of dollars to get even to the approval point on that particular project.
But it did.
I told them they had the wrong consultants and engineers, but
Well, that's
but
good to show that there is a comparison.
that one
It
was
can be
approved.
done.
Yeah, that one was approved, and it's moving forward with construction at this point.
Good.
And I assume also during this time, going to work towards resolution with obtaining that property that you.
Yes. Yeah, we're moving on multiple parallel tracks to meet everybody at the quarterback in 6 months, yes.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm good.
So we have a request to extend the redevelopment agreement for 6 months. Do I hear a motion?
So moved?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. You have a roll call vote on this, please?
Mr. Cheek?
I'm going to vote no. I basically have heard this before, and the results are still the same, so no.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Yes. Mayor Patali?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on, 3B, Fresh Cut Cannabis Incorporated. Request for extension of memorandum of understanding executed on October 17th, 2022.
I'm recusing myself.
Oh, okay.
Read it.
Yeah, you keep both of them.
Yep.
Here, you hit those 4 boxes on the side. On the right-hand side, yeah. Third one down there. See the arrow? Maybe 2 more. Yeah, that was good. If you go down to the bottom right there, you see the 2 magnifying glasses? There's a zoom in if you want to zoom in.
Zoom out.
Oh, zoom out. Okay. If you click the page looking thing above the zoom in button. Yeah, sorry. I think there's. What do you want?
Do we need to properly move and second this before we start this?
I don't know what this is.
This is, so
Are they
they're
doing a presentation?
They're giving a presentation since there are new members of committee here.
I see.
I think they can present before the board discusses, and I think there should be a motion on the same. If you intend to ask questions, you can do it now, that'd be fine.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion
What's the motion?
to move the request for extension of a memorandum of understanding so that then we can ask questions and debate.
So this is the only one of the properties in the industrial park that has gone this far,
Yes.
correct?
I have a motion. I'll go ahead and second it. Yeah, so go ahead and we'll allow you to give your presentation. And as I said, the reason we requested another presentation is there's new members on committee.
Yeah, understood. Yeah. My name is Michael Law. I'm a co-founder of Fresh Cut. So Phil had asked me to come in and give a brief update on the progress that we've made. In August of last year, we entered into a memorandum of understanding, as a step to get towards a redevelopment agreement. We have under contract right now in Block 994, lots 35 and 36, which were highlighted in the red on the last map that was up there. Since last August, we have hit a number of milestones. We've made a lot of progress. I'll back up because I know this is new for some of the members up here. We intend to build a cannabis cultivation and manufacturing facility on those lots. We have been going through the cannabis licensing process with the state of New Jersey, so the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, the CRC. Essentially, the way that process works, I'll simplify it a little bit. It's basically a two-part process. We had to apply and get a conditional license, and then once you get that conditional license, you have to submit a second application to convert that conditional license into what they call an annual license. We received that conditional license, and in general, that cannabis licensing process has taken a lot longer than people have anticipated. And so we did receive the conditional license in October. Again, we entered into the MOU in August. We received the conditional license in October. We turned the second application right around, and by the end of November, we submitted that. Actually, the first week of December, we submitted that. And we were waiting quite a while for that approval from the state. We received that approval in July of this year. And while we were waiting for that, we were operating a couple different parallel paths, including our site design, which you can see our site plan up here. This was prepared by Andy Schaefer, who his office is also in the industrial park. And so site design has been one of the parallel tracks that we've been pursuing. And I just lost my train of thought. And so while we were also preparing the facility design, we have been trying to get the financing in place for this. And so right now where we're at is we have a developer that we've partnered with. We are working out the business transaction with that developer, and we have the final license from the state in hand as well. And we also have been going through the permitting process with the Pinelands application, with the Pinelands Commission. So we submitted our application to the Pinelands in April. We received our review letter from them in June. There was a couple conditions we had to meet. We had to do a cultural study to make sure there was no significant artifacts or settlements on the properties. We completed that with no findings. We also had to do an endangered species study for red-headed woodpeckers. We completed that with no adverse findings. So we have submitted all of that to the Pinelands Commission. We had a phone call with them. They've assured us that they've received everything and that it was just kind of a, they didn't use these words, but it essentially sounded like it was like a rubber stamp for them to just approve the application. We're expecting that any day now. That was 3 weeks ago. They said that we should have had it the following week. So we are following up with them again this week to see where our final approval is. So that's kind of where from the time that we signed the MOU until now. The way we'd like to proceed is to extend our MOU for another 6 months. That will give us time to get that agreement negotiated with the township in coordination with our developer, and we'll have to work out the details with Ms. Givens, but what we'd like to do is have us negotiate the contract, get it signed, and have the ability to assign that to the developer, so that ultimately what our plan is they will come in, build the building, and lease it back to us, and they will be the landlord, and we will be a tenant of them. That's part of the financing strategy that we have, because it's a capital-intensive project, and that's the best path that we have to go forward. So, I think that's pretty much the update from where we were until now, and our ask is for a 6-month extension.
My question was not, I had questions earlier, but it was not for you in your process. You articulated very well. I had an issue because the township has adopted a new process called escrow agreement, which is what you're asking for. But the documentation was never changed to reflect the escrow agreement. All of it keeps saying MOU. I understand it means the same, but it hasn't been changed. That has nothing to do with you. All right? And so that was my question. I thought that the paperwork should match what we were going to do. That was my question. And I wanted to know where you would be in the step, because now we have a flow chart, which was adopted by the township.
Right.
Right. So I wanted to know where you would be on the step once the escrow agreement was, approved by the township. That was my only thing. It has nothing to do with what you're doing in your process. I understand it. But I just feel as though this is not new. With the township, this was brought up a few months ago. We passed it. We all agreed. We went back and forth with it. So why doesn't the paperwork reflect what I thought this should be changed to say escrow agreement? This whole contract still says MOU, and only the synopsis on the front page says escrow. So that's my issue. So you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. So I really feel that I don't understand, because 2 weeks ago, we already knew this was coming up. Why wasn't the paperwork changed to reflect what this man is asking for, an extra 6 months, saying escrow agreement? Everything should match. Our paperwork should match whatever we're doing. It shouldn't just be on the synopsis page and everything attached doesn't say that. That's where I was coming from.
Okay. So.
Not you.
Okay.
So that's something
Phil?
that needs to be corrected.
If I may, when I submitted the synopsis, we were now operating with everybody entering an escrow agreement. This is a situation where it's not a new agreement, and it was originally adopted as a memorandum of understanding. Rather than switching it up in midstream, so to speak, as far as this application, we're talking about an extension of an existing MOU. So it's not a new document. If he was coming in fresh, without having been before the committee before, it would show up as an escrow agreement, but only because of the fact that, as it was originally drafted, it was an MOU, and that's what should be extended to. You can't extend an escrow agreement that doesn't exist.
It's the same thing.
The MOU does exist. It's dated October 17, 2022. Just because we changed the terminology moving forward prospectively does not invalidate every retroactive agreement. I know we have counsel here, redevelopment counsel. I don't want to speak out of place. I think Ms. Gibbons knows more about this project. But my view of it is that this has been going on for almost a year now. They've been working towards it, investing towards it. So I don't think we're going to invalidate the MOU just as a result of the fact that we've changed our terminology in the last several months.
And I have to agree with Mr. Ballesteri. The purpose of the extension is to continue those exclusive negotiations. And we are extending the existing MOU. And that was in consultation with Mr. Sartorio and Mr. Knoll. The best course of action was to maintain the existing agreement and make that extension so that tracing back, everyone understood why and when this started and why those documents exist as they do. So it's more for, it's kind of like a deed when you do a recital and you go back to the owner before and the owner before so that you can do the appropriate trace back. But it does establish the escrow in that memorandum of understanding. The intent and the purpose of the document is the same, but the extension of the MOU is because it was an pre-existing agreement.
Where is he on the chart?
He is on the chart at 8C, in between 8C and 8D. So we've already approved the escrow agreement by virtue of adoption of that memorandum of understanding and execution of the memorandum of understanding. That document itself establishes an escrow account. And so that's where he is. And we will be negotiating the redevelopment agreement should committee decide that they are going to extend the term of the MOU another 6 months.
So he never put down any money?
He has. That's why the MOU establishes an escrow. There is an escrow agreement that's established through any MOU that was previously entered into, and we are just extending that.
I believe that's paragraph 4B.
I don't have the document in front of me, but yes.
It's just a little confusing.
Understood.
The maps is saying one thing and your other paperwork saying something else. I understand that it's already the agreement in place and that we were asking for, he's asking for an additional 6 months. I'm not against it. I just wanted to know why the synopsis says one thing.
I understand your question.
I read my stuff. And the document says something else, that's all.
Yeah, and that is the basis, though, because it's an extension of an existing agreement.
All right.
Any other questions? You're good?
Good.
Judy, anything?
I was wondering about the agreement of building and leasing back that building. Are they going to do the things that are necessary to keep the air fresh and all the stipulations that were presented to you before?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so we are designing the building in coordination with them. So we're in total agreement between both parties on the specifications of the building, including, odor mitigation, all the odor mitigation systems and security systems and everything like that. So yes, to answer your question, they're not going to, skirt and, take any shortcuts or cut any corners here. Especially with regards to that. We know that's of utmost importance to both you, us. So yeah, we're in agreement about the specs on the building.
Quick
Absolutely.
You still have to present this application back in front of the board committee as part of the redevelopment agreement, correct? Because you really haven't submitted anything to the board to review as in the future yet. So you are coming back again, correct?
It will be back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all those questions, but you're saying specifics, that's got to come back again. So just so you know that there may be changes into the redevelopment agreement that the committee may want, even site-specific conditions that may change. I'm talking about the committee as of right now. And then you still could have changes into your site work that you went pretty far, I feel, without a redevelopment agreement and submit to Pinelands that could change. Just so you know that you were going forward without any agreement through the town. So just make sure that you're aware of that.
Yeah, so between this and our, this may be a little bit further along, but our actual facility design as far as floor plan is about 50%.
Okay.
It's a kind of a synchronized dance that we have to do in order to get financing and get, capital partners in place. We needed to get the plans far enough developed far enough that we could get accurate budget numbers, so on and so forth, in order to get the financing in place. So we are aware of that, and our plan going forward is to, start the local entitlements processes with planning board, et cetera.
Good.
And get that feedback, finalize the designs, and then move forward from there.
Make sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So the point that was made is that it hasn't gone before the planning board.
It still has to come back to you first.
Yeah.
And get the redevelopment agreement plan done. Or agreement, and all the conditions you may want to impose on them, whatever it may be, has to be developed. You guys approve it. If you do approve it, you still have an opportunity not to approve this. That's why when I saw going through Pinelands and going through a whole site plan application already, I thought it was putting the cart before the horse, really spending money that you may have shouldn't have done yet. So, hopefully what you come back and present to the committee and the committee all agrees to everything or imposes anything else, you can incorporate that into the new design and move forward, and then come back to planning board approval at a later date.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Anything else? Good?
Yes.
This is only just to set up an escrow.
That's all it is.
That's all.
Just move to the next step.
Okay.
Yep,
There's already an escrow established.
This is extension of
The
the escrow.
extension of the escrow.
Yes. We're going to see him again.
I got it.
Basically, it's extension of the escrow contained in the MOU that exists.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I believe there is a problem that we have with cannabis right at this point. We really should suspend any further discussion and formal action regarding the cannabis ordinance. The reason is that there has been an allegation of possible wrongdoing by a sitting township committeeman. We must ask the New Jersey Attorney General to begin a complete and thorough investigation. And I'm calling upon the township solicitor to immediately contact the New Jersey Attorney General to begin an investigation.
Well, Mrs. Link, I think there's been a motion and a second already. If that is your rationale for voting no, that's your prerogative. I would remind the board that there is a good faith clause contained within this MOU, so keep that in mind. You certainly have a right as a sitting committee member and as a citizen to request an investigation. That's your prerogative. So with that, if that's your way of saying that's a no vote, that's your call.
Yeah, but I believe at this point this should be tabled until further investigation is done about the alleged wrongdoing by a township committee person, because that sort of puts the kibosh on a lot of the things going forward.
Okay, so are you motioning to table this?
There's a motion on this.
There's already a motion on the floor. There's a motion and a second.
I'm not going to motion to table it. I'll vote accordingly, but this is what I feel is important. So after we vote, then I'll propose that.
Understood, Mrs. Link.
Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Link,
No.
Mr. Schenker,
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon,
Yes.
Mayor Patali.
Yes.
3 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward.
Before we move forward, I would like our solicitor to contact the New Jersey Attorney General about this situation that I just enumerated. That we have a committee person who has it's a possible wrongdoing by a sitting township committeeman, and that it has to be investigated. And it also has to go through the Attorney General.
Mrs. Link, I understand your position. I think you certainly have the right to file that complaint if you so choose. If the board as a body directs me to do that, I can certainly do that.
No, it doesn't
Put to
need
vote.
a vote. I'm saying this as a committee person. It doesn't need a vote. I'm asking you to contact the AG.
Yeah, you read my mind. Respectfully, Mrs. Link, I don't know that that's my place. I can certainly research that issue, and if you're correct that any sitting individual board member can direct me to go file complaints against other board members, I'll be guided by that, but I do not think that is the law. I was not expecting this evening. There was no advance notice of it. I don't think that's how it works. I think if the board were to take a vote and direct me to do something on behalf of the board, I would be bound to do that, certainly. But I'm happy to look into that.
I'd like an email tomorrow.
You'll have it.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving forward, ordinance 2053, 2023. An ordinance amending, where am I at? 4A. An ordinance amending bond ordinance number 2016-2022, adopted November 14th, 2022, to reappropriate a portion of the total amount specified for an additional capital improvement without increasing the aggregate amount previously appropriated under bond ordinance number 2016-2022. This is a public hearing. If anybody wishes to speak.
Make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
I have a motion to second. All those in favor? Aye. Against?
Make a motion to move ordinance 2053, 2023.
I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon?
Yes.
Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Introduction of ordinances. Public hearing to be held October 16th, 2023. You're recusing?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table this. Since our last meeting, I've had a lot of conversation with some people in the public and our redevelopment attorney. Also, I had another opportunity to visit a grow and manufacturing site. There's some things that have come up that I think are worth looking into. And one of the things that, we have 4 other applicants in the industrial park right now. And I believe there's at least 3 of them that are pretty much been inactive for a year. So we were talking about doing some grandfathering them in, and I don't know whether that's justified at this point. Also, there's one retail in the industrial park that has bothered me since I learned of what has been going on in the industrial park. I don't know how we allow retail in the industrial park when we have so many schools surrounding the industrial park and in the industrial park. And on top of that, we have a methadone clinic. So I don't care where you're at, you're a block away from one of those facilities. So I think it's important that we recognize that. I was not aware of how long some of these applicants have been in play and nothing has been happening, unlike the gentleman who sat here tonight. I think we need to become a little firmer on who we say yes to. I think that we've done a lot of just allowing people to come in. You want this, okay, move on, next step. I don't think we really spent a lot of time vetting these people out before we said yes to them. Not only vetting them out, but vetting out where they're going to be and how it's going to affect the surrounding property. I've said this before on this dais, I'm not against cannabis, but we have the ability to control it. And we can't just sit here and allow them to control us. So, yes, the money is decent, the revenue's there for us, it's great, but you can't let it run your town. So, with that being said, and there are other things, I really don't want to get into all that. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until we get a chance to look a little deeper into this. I'm not thrilled with this because there are some things in this ordinance that are to do with the redevelopment, and I don't want to do anything to slow that down, but I think this is that important that we pump the brakes a little bit and get this right.
I have a motion to table it. I'll go ahead and I'll second that. There were some other things that were discussed, Brett and I, and as Committeeman Schenker said, speaking with other people in the public, you know, my big thing was the 1,000 feet from property line to property line. I wanted that before, and got shot down. I voted no on that back when that was brought up. I think it was last year or the year before. So that was my big thing, to get that done. But then you start looking at it and thinking of what's going on. And yeah, there's some more things that we'd like to look at. So I'll second that to table it. All those in favor of tabling? Aye. Against?
Aye.
I just had a question. I'm
Sure.
not against it, you taking it. What I'm trying to understand, which I thought I understood, the new process we put in place, this committee, would that help us in our investigation on what we need to know about this whole cannabis thing?
It will certainly help.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that's put in place is, you know, we issue the request for qualifications. We do a staff level internal review to make sure that they, you know, hit the right buttons. Now you've got the redevelopment subcommittee reviewing these applications with fresh eyes, and, you know, which is a level of review that they weren't getting before. And, you know, right now, the policy is in place. Granted, when this ordinance, in whatever form it comes back as, goes forward, part of that is codification of those flow charts in the process. So that'll be there. And it's still there now.
Okay. You good? Very good.
Just to be clear, everyone voted to table.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on. Award of bids, contracts, change orders. 6A, awarding change order number 1, professional services contract to Blaney, Donahue, and Weinberg, Labor Council, in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes, and carried.
6B, awarding change order number 1, a professional services contract to Blaney, Donahue, and Weinberg, alternate solicitor, in the amount of $20,000. I have a motion.
Second?
I have a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes, and carried.
6C, award change order number 2 for bid 2021-10, tree and stump removal and tree trimming services contract to Rich Tree Services, South Plainfield, New Jersey, for an additional increase of $10,000 for the term January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023.
Motion.
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
I wanted to ask a question. What is the justification for an increase of 10,000?
Brett?
We did a previous increase a few months ago, and we are getting really close to that not to exceed amount, and we need some more money to cover us till the end of the year for tree trimming and removal.
Oh, okay. I'm curious, where is this taking place?
This is as needed. So if we
Can you give me
identify a hazardous tree on one of the township roads or right-of-ways that Public Works can't cut, we will call Riches in to handle that.
Okay, it's not on Route 50 or anything.
No.
It's not, but it's,
No, it's
on,
only
our roads.
Only on our roads, yes.
Okay, very good. To take them down, it's dangerous. Okay, yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6D, resolution to award second-year extension of bid 2021-10, tree and stump removal and tree trimming to Rich Tree Services Incorporated of South Plainfield, New Jersey, for a not-to-exceed amount of $20,000 for the period of 1/1/2024 through 12/31/2024.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6E, award change order number 3 for bid 2022-09 to Peterson Service Company for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning service, a deduction in the annual contract of $1,460.00.
Second?
Motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Abstain. I'm a member of the same Mechanical Contractors Association.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 abstention. Motion carries.
6F, resolution to award second-year extension of bid number 2022-05A, as-needed electrical services to Northeast Electrical Services, LLC, Williamstown, New Jersey, in the amount not to exceed $10,000 for the period of 1/1/2024 through 12/31/2024.
Motion.
I have a motion.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Moving on, consent agenda. H was removed.
Oh, okay. That was,
Make a motion to accept A through G and I through K.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Against? Ayes have it. What am I doing? 7, J. That's it.
Is that it?
Man, we are. Personnel, we have nothing. Approvals, minutes, regular meeting minutes of September 18th, 2023.
So moved.
Motion a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Minutes, special meeting minutes of September 25th, 2023.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Bills, bill list totaling $810,258.11.
Motion.
Second?
I was going to say, I would
That's a
even
cheap
second
one. I'm
that.
in
That's
for
a
that
cheap one.
Yeah. Isn't
Motion.
there a one? Should,
Everybody
No,
wants
no.
to do it.
no.
No.
Get the $7 million.
I have a motion to second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes.
Dr. Witherspoon? Mayor Patali?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Reports, Mr. Administrator.
I just want to comment on our tax collector's office and their work during the last quarter. They've been down a member of their staff, and they stepped it up. Did a great job in this last quarter, so I just wanted to note that. And that's all I have.
Mr. Solicitor.
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Engineer.
I did submit a hot topics list. Just to briefly go over a couple is that the Arawak paving is starting concrete work over on Nelson Avenue and Crocus Avenue in the next today and continuing for the next 2 weeks. They hope to start asphalt work by October 23rd. If they do not, then I'm going to hold them off till after Halloween. I just don't want anybody being walking around with road improvements going on over in that section. So they will be done shortly in the first week or so of November, and that would include all of our road programs being finished for the year. And they will be starting Levy Recreational Field concession stands and the parking lot this month. The septic system should start next week, by the end of next week, out there for the concession stand. And the parking lot is scheduled to start construction on October 16th. So they'll be seeing work out there being done.
What kind of time frame is it for the concession stand?
The concession stand's 180 days. So you're looking April, May is what their goal is. Right now they haven't said anything is back ordered on anything. So that's key. The parking lot, I hope to have that done, hoping before November, because they do have porous asphalt and we want to keep that as warm as possible to get that in there. So, and that's all I have to report.
Very good. Committee members. Dr. Witherspoon.
I don't have a report, Mayor.
Okay.
The only thing I do want to say, which was already said, I always have to report, that the former mayor, Thomas Palminteri, passed away, and certainly our condolences are with his family during this difficult time. That's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Schenker.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, I agree. Tom was a good man, and he will be missed. First of all, we had a storm, pretty decent-sized storm, and about 6 days of rain. I want to thank Public Works for handling it with ease. Seen some trees go down, and they were gone before they hit the ground. So very nice job. Please pass that along to everybody. So I want to mention to you, Bob, that Asphalt Appeal, Chuck Tharp and his company was out at the hockey rinks and redid the asphalt all around the rinks. So what you're about to do better look good, because it matches right up to that. And I really just want to shout out to Asphalt Appeal. Unbelievable that somebody would step up there, take their time, their employees, their money, and do something like that. It's it's kind of brings us back to where we were 20 years ago when volunteerism was at a height. But I can't say enough. And on top of that, the MLAA just put deck hockey for everyone. That's like a plastic surface. It goes on top of the hockey rinks. So now both rinks are decked, and those folks, through their efforts of raising money in their tournaments, were able to pay for that out of their own pocket, and it did not cost the township anything. So I'm all for that. So again, two great groups there that are doing a great job for the township, and I just thought they should be recognized. Carl, that's all I have. Mayor?
Very good. Mrs. Link.
I would like to express a little bit more about Tom Palminteri, who was a former mayor of our township, but he spent many, many years on the planning board and was extremely successful in defining, with the help of other members of the planning board, the zoning that had that is presently followed, but because of his extensive work with the pine lands. Because when that pine lands, when the pine lands was first originated, there was not a regional growth area. 75% of our property in Hamilton Township is totally under the pine lands and still is. But they were able to, through the planning board and through careful review, come up with a zoning map that probably is second to none. And it should be commented that he was very, very instrumental in working with the Pinelands, with Mr. Link and Mr. Bigland and the other members of the planning department. And, so in going forward with redevelopment, this should be regarded very much so. And it really should involve the zoning board and go over for review instead of just giving people the right to change the zoning. I admired Tom because he did voluntarily resign because of his cancer 11 years ago, and has been under a doctor's care and just has been very valiant in facing this. But it did go to his brain, and when he had brain surgery, it was just too much. So I feel very passionate about his family and the things that they are going through. But I think we in Hamilton Township should be very appreciative of his dying effort to really see that the zoning map stays its course in all of our work that we have ahead of us. So thank you, Tom. I want to say that there is a fall festival coming. It's on the 14th, and hopefully we will not have rain on that day. And we did squeak through with the art in the park, and it is it is great that we have people who will step up, such as the Merchants Association and the like, to provide an event for our community. It's so vital. Thank you to all those people as well. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Cheek.
I must say I knew of Tom Pomeranian. I didn't know him personally. He was active when I was just starting to get into stuff, and it is sad to hear that he passed away. On a lighter note, I'm sorry I couldn't shave tonight. I took my grandson to the football game and sat in the sun. And I am sunburnt like you wouldn't believe. It's not blood pressure, anyone. And that's all.
Very good. Echo what Mr. Schenker said about asphalt appeal and what they did out there. All the walkways and everything, they seal coated it. Chucky was a hockey player back in the day, so he likes to give back, and he's a good guy, and that's really great what he did for our town. Another thing I want to mention, the Main Street Food Pantry, the Methodist Church, their shelves are bare, to the point where they don't know if they're going to be able to give out any food on Wednesday. So if anybody out there can help out, obviously they'll take monetary donations, they'll go out buy the food themselves, or if you can drop something off. There's a container by the back door. It's a big Rubbermaid container. Just open it up, put it in there. Obviously, cereal, canned goods, spaghetti, sauce, all that kind of stuff. But it'd be really great if you could help them out. It's getting that time of year, Thanksgiving's coming and everything like that.
Mr. Mayor, what food pantry was that?
Main Street Food Pantry. It's the Methodist Church.
Thank you.
And then once again, what Mr. Schenker said, the hockey crew down there, the MLA hockey, they put out their own money to put that deck on. Paid for it all themselves. So we have 2 top-notch hockey courts with the decks on them, and that makes a big difference when they have their tournaments. So they're very excited about that, very happy about that, and it's really a great thing to see them. They're not, a lot of stuff gets said about different entities that do this. They hoard their money, whatever. No, these guys put their money where their mouth is, and they put it out there, and they did it right. They come and they ask, and what do we have to do? And they do everything that has to be done. Make sure the insurance is right. They're not doing anything, at night, when we can't see what's going on. Also, some painting got done out there, right, Brett? I think that was all, Greg, that was all volunteer. Don't want to leave anybody out. A lot of work got done out there that was all volunteer. And as with most of our fields out there, a lot of volunteerism goes on. With the football team, they go out and they empty the trash cans, they line the fields, they do all that stuff, and that really helps out and keeps our costs down. So kudos to all of them for that, for what they do.
I believe it was DC 21 Painters Union.
Okay.
Roy Foster. I got in touch with
Roy
him.
Foster, really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Got in touch with him, and then he made it happen. And I met Bill out there, Krez, and he got us in contact with everybody, and we were able to get it painted for no charge. So
awesome.
It looks great out there.
Yeah, I saw pictures. I haven't been out there yet, but it does. The pictures look good. So thank you. Thank you very much. Kudos to Public Works, Chris. Storm came through, let the water down in the lake. It worked out really, really well. By Sunday, there was water going back over the dam. So you nailed that one, buddy. So good job. And, of course, all the work you did keeping everything open and, whatever trees fell down, you jumped on that. That's great. Good job. And I think, should we say anything about the dam? So it looked like there was going to be a real holdup with the dam. Different parts that couldn't, the supply chain issues. It looked like one piece that would hold the whole thing up on the powerhouse wasn't going to be here until January. So that in turn held up them starting on the spillway. But fortunately, Congressman Van Drew got involved, made some phone calls to the people that are producing this actuator that was needed. And they said, yes, we'll do what we can to speed it up. We should be able to speed it up by 2 months, I believe they said. And the next thing we knew, we got an email this past week saying it's on the way. So hopefully the contractor can reschedule everything and get out there. And I think they were already out there last week. They met with Brett out there last week. And they're going to be back out there this week to start doing some more investigations. And hopefully they'll be out there working on that a lot sooner than what we thought. So I'm sure we'll be giving an update on that probably at our November meeting. We'll know a lot more on what's going on with that. So that's really, really a good thing. And Reagan, I'll see you later. And Maddie, I miss you and I love you and I hope to see you soon. And open it up to the public. So nobody coming up, I make a motion to close.
Yeah, right.
You sure?
I don't know. There we go. There we
go. It's silly season.
No, it's not silly season. This is serious. Okay, sorry, Art. Jim Link, 676 Park Road, 763 Park Road. I got to tell you, and I think I mentioned this before,
A motion to table in accordance with Robert's Rules, newly revised, 3rd edition, requires that a date be specified in that motion to table when the issue is supposed to be put back on the table. You made a motion, it was open-ended. We don't know what the heck your guy is going to be doing in the meantime to get that back on the table. But more importantly, like I said many, many months ago, this stuff with redevelopment, and as it applies to cannabis, the layover or the overlay of cannabis is, like you said tonight, Art, it's a mess. It's a hot mess that requires more than just tweaking, okay? 8 months ago when I came up here, I said, look, you guys got to reconsider the entire idea, the concept, and then redo it in such a way that you may have avoided all this mess that you got now, that you're asking to, you're backpedaling on stuff that should have been taken care of then. I'm just a little bit disappointed it's taken this long, okay? Because, not just that, but now we have public allocations of malfeasance, and that's brought to the attention of an officer of the court, who I believe has an obligation, but I'm not an attorney. I don't know for sure. But as an officer of the court, you have an obligation to bring this to the Department of Justice, the AG's attention. I just hope everything goes well, because this kind of stuff is going to have far-reaching effects, just like Mrs. Link said about Tom Palminteri on the planning board. Things of this nature have effects not just next week, next year. It has effects on decades, okay? You got to get it right. Come on. Scrap what you know, learn and apply what you've learned in the meantime, and let's come up with some ideas that are going to work. So it's going to benefit everybody, instead of, putting out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for which we've received zero. Okay? That was the whole big thing about the cannabis stuff. Is going to, bring in all kinds of money like it has in Colorado and it has elsewhere in the state. We haven't seen a thing. So, thank you.
Motion to close?
I have a motion? Second. I have a motion to second. All those in favor? Aye. Against?
Motion to close?
Motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
close meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Against?